For 20 seconds, nobody said a word. Not the fans, not the commentary team, not even the ring crew, who had seen it all before. Because when she walked through that cloud of smoke, the whole arena couldn't believe who they were seeing. After months of silence, she's back, and the WWE felt that impact instantly. It wasn't just a return, it was a resurrection. Usually in professional wrestling, you expect the music to hit first. You expect the pyrotechnics to shatter the glass and shake the floorboards. But this was different. The lights didn't strobe, they simply died. The arena was plunged into a suffocating darkness, the kind that makes 20,000 people hold their breath in unison. The air conditioning hummed, a low mechanical drone that suddenly felt deafening. Then, the smoke began to curl out from the entrance stage, glowing with a faint, ethereal purple hue. There was no music yet. It's just the sound of boots on the metal ramp. Clack, clack, clack. The rhythm was unmistakable. It was a walk that carried the weight of history, a gait that spoke of injuries healed and demons conquered. In the front row, a fan dropped their sign, the cardboard hitting the floor with a soft thud that somehow echoed in the quiet. The camera operators froze, afraid that if they adjusted their focus, the mirage would disappear. It was a moment suspended in amber, caught between the memory of who she used to be and the reality of who she had become during her absence. The suspense wasn't about violence, it was about presence. The smoke parted, and the silhouette became sharp. She didn't pose. She just stood there, letting the silence scream for her. Then the realization hit. Started as a low rumble, a vibration you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. It began in the cheap seats, the nosebleeds, where the die-hard fans recognized the outline first. A single scream pierced the quiet, followed by 10, then 100, until the noise became a physical force. It wasn't a cheer, it was a roar of disbelief. The commentary team, usually so quick to sell a moment, sat paralyzed. The headsets lay around their necks useless, because there were no words in the English language that could capture the electricity of this specific second. On the screen, we saw faces contorted in pure, unadulterated shock. Grown men clutching their heads, children with mouths wide open, tears streaming down faces that had given up hope of ever seeing this icon again. The audio sensors in the arena peaked, turning the crowd noise into a distortion of pure energy. Inside the ring, the current champion, who had been mid-sentence, simply lowered the microphone. Her confident smirk dissolved into a look of genuine, unscripted terror. This wasn't part of the run sheet. This wasn't in the rehearsal. The returning star slowly walked down the ramp, her eyes scanning the sea of people. She didn't smile. She looked almost pained, absorbing the love and the pressure all at once. Every step toward the ring felt like a drumbeat. The commentary team finally scrambled to put their headsets back on, their voices cracking, abandoning their broadcasting personas for genuine fan-like hysteria. "It can't be," they whispered, the audio feed capturing their raw, unfiltered awe. The atmosphere had shifted from a wrestling show to a religious experience. Queen had returned to reclaim her throne. While the arena was melting down in euphoria, a different kind of storm was raging just behind the entrance curtain, in the nerve center known as the gorilla position. This is the place where the magic is directed. A dark, cramped area filled with monitors, cables, and the most powerful people in the industry. Usually, it is a place of controlled chaos, shouting directors and pacing producers. But in this moment, even the chaotic backstage world had ground to a halt. Wrestlers who were preparing for their matches stopped taping their wrists. They gathered around the small monitors, shoulder-to-shoulder faces of friends, rivals, and rookies, all illuminated by the blue light of the screen. Some were smiling, seeing an old friend return from the brink. Others, the younger talent who were currently fighting for screen time, felt a cold knot of anxiety tighten in their stomachs. They knew what this meant. The hierarchy had just been shattered. The main event spot they were chasing just got pushed further away. The producers frantically ripped up the script for the night. The carefully timed segments, the commercial breaks, the promo battles, all of it was useless now. You cannot follow a ghost coming back to life with a mid-card comedy sketch. The executive producer sat in the headset, listening to the crowd roar, and simply leaned back. Taking the cue sheet and tossing it into the trash can, there was a frantic beauty to the backstage panic. It was the realization that they were no longer in control of the show. The emotion of the audience was steering the ship now. The writers scrambled, laptops open, trying to figure out how to pivot the entire universe of the show around this singular gravitational pull. But the most isolated person in the entire building was the woman standing inside the ring, the champion. For 6 months, she had carried the division. She had done the media tours, wrestled the hurt matches, carried the heavy belt through airports at 4 a.m., convinced herself that she was the undisputed face of the company. She had built a fortress of confidence, brick by brick. And now, in the span of one entrance theme, she watched that fortress crumble into dust. The camera zoomed in tight on her face. You could see the micro-expressions, the twitch of the eye, the tightening of the jaw. This wasn't acting. This was the realization that her era might just become a footnote in someone else's legacy. She gripped the velvet ropes, her knuckles turning white. She watched the returning legend ascend the steel steps, and for the first time in her title reign, she looked small. The visual storytelling here was profound. The returning star didn't even look at the champion yet. She walked around the ring, touching the turnbuckles like a pianist checking the keys before a concerto. She was reacquainting herself with her canvas. The champion was merely furniture in the room of the returning star's homecoming. The disrespect wasn't verbal, it was spatial. By ignoring the person holding the belt, the returnee made the belt seem irrelevant. The air in the ring grew heavy, thick with a tension that radiated through the screens of millions of viewers at home. 2 alphas were now in the same cage, but only one had the hearts of the people. The balance of power had shifted without a single punch being thrown. The moment the broadcast signal beamed that image across the world, the digital infrastructure of the wrestling community buckled. It wasn't just a trending topic. It was a digital wildfire that consumed the timeline. Notifications on phones lit up pockets in the arena like fireflies in a dark forest. People weren't just watching the show anymore. They were broadcasting their shock, creating a feedback loop of hype that transcended the sport. I thought she retired. I thought she was injured forever. I thought she went to Hollywood. The speculation that had been bubbling in forums for months instantly crystallized into reality. Wrestling journalists who pride themselves on knowing the secrets before they happen were left scrambling. They'd been worked. The secrecy of the return added to the mystique. In an era where every script leaks online hours before the show, the fact that this remained a secret made it feel sacred. Felt like the old days. Memes were generated in seconds, the champion's terrified face side by side with the returnee's stoic expression. Fans began fantasy booking the next year of storylines in the span of 5 minutes. The engagement metrics for the company spiked vertically. Lapsed fans, people who hadn't watched the product in years, were suddenly texting their friends, "Turn on the TV." Now it proved that in the age of content saturation, genuine surprise is the only currency that matters. The digital world reflects the emotional resonance of the physical one, and tonight, the internet was bowing down. The return wasn't just a segment on a television show. It was a cultural moment that demanded attention from anyone who had ever invested emotion in the characters. Back in the arena, the noise finally settled into a low, buzzing hum of anticipation. The returning star was handed a microphone. The object looked small in her hand, a black wand capable of casting spells. She brought it to her lips, and the static of her breath over the speakers made 20,000 people lean forward in their seats. She didn't launch into a catchphrase. She didn't scream the name of the city. She stood there, letting the moment breathe, looking at the hard camera with eyes that looked wet with tears. "I didn't think I'd ever make it back here," she whispered. The vulnerability in her voice was disarming. This character, known for being a warrior, an Amazonian figure of strength, was stripping away the armor. She spoke not to the champion, but to the camera, to us. She spoke about the dark days. The days in rehab where lifting a coffee cup felt like a max effort lift. The days when the doctors told her to find a new career. The promo wasn't a challenge. It was a confession. It grounded the spectacle in humanity. It reminded everyone that behind the pyro and the entrance music, these are human beings breaking their bodies for our entertainment. She talked about the silence of her house when the cheering stopped, and how that silence almost consumed her. But then she heard the echo of the fans in her memory, and that echo was the rope that pulled her out of the pit. It was masterclass storytelling, making the audience feel responsible for her return. We weren't just spectators. We were her reason. We often see the glory of the return, but the story is truly written in the shadows that precede it. Flashback to 6 months ago. The scene is a sterile living room. The shades are drawn. The same woman who just electrified an arena is sitting on a couch, staring blankly at a muted television. Her body is covered in ice packs and kinesiology tape. This is the unglamorous reality of the industry. The loneliness of recovery. Her family moves around her, walking on eggshells. They know she is mourning the loss of her identity. To be a wrestler is to be a superhero, and to be injured is to be mortal. The psychological toll is heavier than the physical one. She doubts herself. She looks in the mirror and sees someone who used to be great. She questions if the younger generation has already surpassed her, if her style is outdated, if the fans have moved on to the next big thing. This chapter of the story is crucial because it gives weight to the footsteps on the ramp. Every step she took tonight was a victory over those nights on the couch. The hesitation she showed before entering the ring wasn't stage fright. It was the trauma of the injury whispering in her ear, telling her she was fragile. We need to understand that her return wasn't guaranteed. There were moments she almost picked up the phone to announce her retirement. The battle wasn't against a rival wrestler. It was against the voice in her head that said, "Stay down, it's safer down here." But then came the turning point. The scene shifts to a gritty, nondescript warehouse gym on the outskirts of the city. No cameras, no fans, just the smell of stale sweat and rusted iron. It's 4 a.m. While the world sleeps, she is there, relearning how to be herself. The montage of pain is visceral. She runs the ropes, hitting her back against the steel cables until bruises bloom on her skin, just to callous her body again. She trains with a hooded figure, perhaps an old mentor who doesn't take it easy on her. She falls. She fails to hit the move. She screams in frustration, the sound echoing off the metal walls, but she gets up, again and again. This is the Rocky montage, but without the triumphant music. It's just the grunts of exertion and the slamming of bodies on canvas. She had to hide this process from the world. If the media knew she was training, the pressure would be too great. She had to test her body to see if it would hold up. It's the first time she took a bump falling flat on her back. She stayed down for a minute, checking every nerve ending. Am I broken? No, she was still whole. That realization in the empty gym was more powerful than the cheer of the crowd. It was the moment she reclaimed ownership of her destiny. She wasn't coming back for the money or the fame. She was coming back because she was a fighter, and fighters fight. The secrecy of this grind made the public reveal feel like a magic trick, but the magician had spent months practicing the sleight of hand in the dark. Back in the present moment, the promo has ended. The music has faded. The two women stand in the center of the ring. The champion and the icon. The past and the present colliding. The referee stands between them, looking like a child caught between two hurricanes. The crowd is buzzing with a low, nervous energy. They want them to fight, but they also just want to drink in the image. The champion raises the title belt slowly, holding it up to the face of the returnee. It's a challenge. You may be a legend, the gesture says, but this gold belongs to me. The icon looks at the belt, then looks at the champion's eyes. She smiles. It's a smile that unnerves the champion. It's not a smile of arrogance. It's a smile of peace. She extends her hand. The crowd gasps. Is this a truce? The champion hesitates, confusing etched on her face. She expects a punch, a finisher, a brawl, but the icon just keeps her hand extended. Slowly, warily, the champion shakes it. But the moment their hands touch, the icon pulls her in close, shoulder to shoulder, and whispers something off mic that the cameras can't pick up.
Ow.
The champion's eyes widen. The icon releases her grip, steps through the ropes, and leaves the ring, leaving the champion alone with her gold, looking more confused and unsettled than if she had been physically attacked. As the icon walks back up the ramp, looking back at the confused arena, the true meaning of the comeback reveals itself. The audience, expected a war for the title. We expected her to say, "I want my belt back." But the twist is deeper. The whisper she gave the champion wasn't a threat. It was, "Make me earn it." The return wasn't about reclaiming a prop or a position. It was about elevating the industry. The icon realized that simply defeating the current champion would destroy the younger star's credibility. But by refusing to fight immediately, by looming over the division like a shadow, she forces the champion to level up. The twist is that the comeback isn't the climax of the movie. It's the inciting incident. The simple viral moment of her return wasn't the end of the story. It was a test. The icon didn't come back to relive her glory days. She came back to see if the new generation could survive her presence. As she vanishes behind the curtain, leaving the audience desperate for answers, we realize the brilliance of the storytelling. The silence wasn't just for dramatic effect, it was a blank page. And now, the real story begins. The speechless crowd realizes that the wrestling match hasn't even started yet, but the psychological war has already been won.